numbing figure. Yet we must never lose sight of each and every individual life. They were fathers and mothers, wives and husbands, brothers and sisters, friends and colleagues. The pain has been multiplied by the savageness of this disease. Risks of infection kept families from bedsides, and the process of mourning and celebrating a life was often made impossible. How do you say goodbye without holding a hand, or extending a gentle kiss, a warm embrace, a final whispered, "I love you"? And still there is no end in sight to the spread of the virus, the loss of jobs, the disruption of education, the upheaval of our lives. We can overcome this challenge, but we must learn from the mistakes. Responsible leadership matters, science matters, cooperation matters, and misinformation kills.
Michael Tildesley is an associate professor of life sciences at the University of Warwick, and he joins us now from Coventry in the UK. Thanks so much for being with us, Michael. I mean, if you think back to just 9 months ago when all of this was just in China, a lot of people felt at the time, it's China's problem, and like SARS, it'll probably disappear quickly. How differently could the world have responded if we'd known that just 9 months later, 1 million people would actually be dead?
So I think it's very difficult to look back in hindsight and say how we could have responded, because the problem is with this virus, we're dealing with a virus that, the incubation period is about 2 weeks. So when someone, or can be up to 2 weeks. So when someone gets infected, it can take up to 2 weeks before you actually see it. So this creates a real problem, because then what it actually means is we're always behind the curve. We're always a little bit late in reacting. And it means as soon as we see there's a problem, we've got to react quickly. And that's why actually with something like a coronavirus, it's really, really difficult when you start to see large spread to stop it spreading in many, many different places. So this is why very quickly, even with really, really strict controls in Wuhan, by that stage, we were already starting to see infections in other places. So sadly, we are where we are today with this really sobering number of deaths. The key thing now is what we do going forward, and that's what we've got to think about. How are we going to control this so that we can keep the deaths low from now onwards? And really, we need to think about controls that people will adhere to and that we can use so that we can keep the deaths low in the coming months, and so that ultimately we can get to a situation where we can get COVID cases down to a really low level.
Okay, so what do we do going forward? In your opinion, what is the best way, to curb the spread, fight this virus?
Well, it's extremely difficult because, again, we have, and the UK is an example of this. We're in a position where, in a sense, if all you care about is minimising the public health impact of the virus, then you have lockdown. But of course, there are serious economic consequences of this. And so what you try to do is you put in measures that people will abide by, but you allow certain elements of the economy to continue. Unfortunately, trying to determine a strategy that is best for public health and is best for the economy they're just not compatible criteria. The key thing that we need, and the key thing we need to stress going forward, is people need to adhere to the controls. People need to keep social distancing. They need to keep regular hand washing up with their good hygiene practices. And if we don't see those levels of adherence, and that's really difficult because we're 7-8 months into this, and so naturally people are being a little bit fatigued by these measures. But if we don't see high levels of adherence, we will see cases sadly continue to climb, particularly as we start to go into the winter months in the Northern Hemisphere.
Right. What do you envision then for the potential end to this pandemic? Will it taper off, do you think, like the Spanish flu, or will it only will we only see the end when there's an actual vaccine created?
Well, I mean, this is something that, of course, there's this huge uncertainty about going forward. We're all hoping that there will be a vaccine available in the coming months that will enable us to start resuming some elements of society. But again, there's a huge uncertainty as to whether that's going to be available in months, whether normally vaccines can take up to 10 years to be developed. And of course, there's been a lot of acceleration of that. Huge progress has been made, but there's still uncertainty as to whether that's going to be available. It is possible, and I'd hasten to say possible, that what may happen with coronavirus is that with COVID is that we may get sort of a mutation into a milder form. And it may be something that over years we learn to live with, similar to the way that other strains of coronavirus circulate every winter and cause common cough and colds. But again, this is a huge uncertainty. I think only time will tell. The next few weeks and months will be really crucial in terms of control. And my hope is after the end of this year, come January, we are in a better position. And hopefully, then in the relatively foreseeable future after that, we do have a vaccine available.
Okay, Michael Tildesley joining us there. Thank you, as always, for your insight.